Alright folks, so here's the next video. I've been doing a lot of two-stroke stuff lately, and I guess this goes right along with it. I ran into this Troy-Bilt. The guy just could not get it started and just gave up on it. And the fuel that's in it, he said it was the fuel, the canned two-stroke stuff that you can find at Lowe's, Home Depot, all that stuff, and it is kind of bluish. But when I try to pull it, you can see I'm just pulling it just the weight of the whole thing, and it's just pulling really easy. I mean, that's just pulling it with the weight of the motor there. So, and I remember when I did it before, I took the spark plug off and dripped some fuel straight down in there. You know, put it on there to see if it would fire up, and you can kind of see the remnants of it here, but the gas was just leaking down and it was just dripping. So, but of course, just to make sure, I'm going to check for spark. Yep, there's spark. So luckily, you can see this is one I had in the shed, and it was working. It just the string broke, and the spring in there is gone. So I think I can rob this one of all the prime parts. I mean, I could probably swap over everything: carburetor, plastic housing, everything, the exact same model. So, all right. Almost had the sun trying to come out, but it's supposed to rain tonight, so I'm trying to get this done really quick. But what I'm going to do, this is the one that looks new but has the bad piston ring, no compression. So I'm going to take, I think I'm just going to take everything off of here. I'm going to disconnect take the carburetor off, even the fuel tank, the covers, and the pull rope and spring assembly. And yeah, I'm just going to take all that off and put it on the other one. Alright, so you can see I just started by taking off that back cover there, and it was just 3 screws, and it's most of the stuff on, of course, they're Torx screws. I was able to take that out of the way and move on to the carburetor, and I decided to use I decided to take the carburetor and the fuel tank off as a whole unit, because the fuel lines, everything was looking pretty good on it. So I just took it all off, and I was able just to set it aside for later. And then I started working on the clutch housing and the handle also. So I loosened all that up so I can just take the whole shaft and handle, disconnect it and get it out of the way. Then I could take the clutch housing off. So with that out of the way, there's your clutch, and you have to use a little Allen wrench. I forget what size that was, but you can see my left hand, I'm reaching under there, I'm holding the flywheel so that I can back that Allen screw out. And here's the tough part. That sucker is always on there pretty tight, and you can see I use some vice grips to grip it on the top. And on my left hand, you'll see where I have my needle nose pliers jammed up in there, so that the flywheel won't move. And you got to be careful, because the fins on those things are very brittle. But you can take the whole assembly off, and that's what I was going to use. Well, that's it. I stripped everything down. I guess I'll be keeping this here. You know, I want to save the solenoid. Yeah, even the muffler. I mean, I'll just throw this in the pile. And well, I'm going to do the same thing with the other piece. All right, so here's the good engine block. It doesn't look as clean as the other one, but it works. So assembly is just basically a reverse of what I just did. You know, you can see I'm putting the housing on, and just make sure your cables and, you know, the spark plug cable and all that good stuff is routed correctly. It's not being pinched when you tighten the housing down. So you can just secure that down. I believe it was 4 screws. And there's the washer, don't forget that. And you can start putting the clutch back on. And you can see where I'm grabbing that flywheel again. And that's hand tightened. And then once I get the vice grip out, and I used my needle nose pliers again to set up in there and try to find a spot that's not just directly against one of the ribs, because that is just a cast magnesium alloy, and it's real. They'll snap off very easy. But get that tightened down, and then there's the top part with the Allen wrench, and you'll probably have to grab the flywheel again to keep it from rotating. That's good and snug, and there's the housing for it. And at this point you could probably go ahead and secure the housing down, but for some reason I wanted everything to get lined up before I tightened everything down. Just the shaft, you can see I'm putting the handle on. Then I'll insert it in and make sure everything's lined up, because they're, you know, the shaft has the set screw that you have to tighten down. But everything lined up as usual, so I went ahead and tightened the housing down. But you can see that cable, it's actually supposed to be routed underneath. And I'll find that out later when I'm trying to start it, but you'll see it's I'm just tightening the handle down, making sure everything is secure. Yeah, and there's the handle. Got the set screw down, and then the clamping screw. Then moved on to the carburetor, and it was pretty easy. You just let's insert the fuel tank where it's supposed to go, and then just tighten down the carburetor. Make sure your linkage is working. There's the air cleaner cover, and it's looking good already. So I'm just ready to put the rear cover on. Just 3 screws on that. And last but not least, after all that's tightened down, had to get the fuel tank tightened down. And then the 2 screws for the fuel tank underneath. And that's about it. And you see, that's when I discovered, oh, that cable's supposed to be down underneath, because it's kind of in the way to get it started. But that's an easy fix. right. It runs, but it definitely needs some adjusting. It was running pretty hot. I guess that's it. It looks pretty new now, except for the little rust right here. I guess I could swap the hardware too, but it looks like that's all it needed. I just swapped the good parts, kept the kept the block with the good piston and piston ring on it, had compression. Then I just took all the good plastic pieces and all that good stuff, and so now I have one in working order and a stack of parts. So, well, that's it. There is a lot of labor involved there, but if you have the patience for it, I mean, you'll have a good working weed eater there, a trimmer. And is it worth it? You know, who knows? I guess I'm probably going to give this to my nephew, so it's worth it to him. He'll have one to work with when he does his yard. So, well, I guess that's it. I'll wrap it up with this video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and watch for my next video.